Hello, how's it going, everybody? So today I thought I would share with you what I've been working on recently. So I recently finished this squad of 10 orc boys with shootas, and I've been experimenting with a high elf paint scheme for a small high elf army I have in anticipation of the old world. So uh, yeah, with the orc boys, I, uh, I wanted to make a tutorial on how to paint the more lighter yellowy kind of skins. So I painted some of them in the more yellow skin tone, and then I painted the rest in the traditional. I think moving forward, I'm gonna keep painting any more orcs with the traditional green skin tone. I think it just reads more green. It's more traditionally kind of orky or green skinish than the new one. Although I think the other one also looks good, but I want it to look good with the rest of my army and be consistent. So let me know what you think. Which skin tone do you like better? Leave a comment below. I also kind of add some variety. I inverted how the weapons are painted. So for this one, it has a silver barrel and a silver stock, and then on this one, it's all inverted. So this has a black barrel and a black stock, but a silver kind of entrance where the bullets comes in. So I'm really happy with how these turned out. With some of them, I experimented with multiple highlights, but I found it takes too long, and I think one highlight looks fine. Especially for orcs, I think a cool thing about orcs is that in the fluff they're very ramshackle, and they have a lot of no two models will look the same. So it gives a lot of license to experiment and customize each model a little bit, so make each one look a little different. So that's very refreshing, especially if you have a lot of these to paint. And I've already painted like 50 or 60 to the standard, so I think it's cool to just spice it up and experiment. I'm really happy with how those straps turned out. They take a really long time to paint, just because it's so many edges and details in such like a small area. But I think it looks good if you put a lot of time into it. I like how the gemstone effect turned out on this guy's optic. I think you really need to have a lot of contrast. I started with like a pure black, and then went to a Mephiston red, and then Evilson Scarlet, and then a Wild Rider red, and then pure white on the highlight area and on the part that's kind of opposite of it. And I did some checks on the edge of this guy's armor. And then for some of the skulls and iconography, I did brass. Some of it I did white or red. I think all those work for a Goff color scheme. Another thing I learned was that with the bases, initially when I started this army, I was painting them in Xandri Dust and then giving a wash of Agrax Earthshade, and then dry brushing Xandri Dust again, and then over that Ushabti Bone. But I think moving forward, I'll never use like a wash on sand or basing, or at least not on sand, just because it's hard to get consistent results with it, because it how much it darkens the sand or whatever you're washing kind of depends on how much wash you have on the brush, and it also depends on what size of brush you're using. So like when I was painting a really big base for my squig buggy, I used a bigger brush, and then that made it way darker, so it gives a totally different effect. It doesn't really read as like sand. It reads more as like mud with like highlights, I guess you could say, or little white rocks in it. So I'm learning that for basing, the base color you use on it really dictates the look you're getting. So if you want it to read as like mud, then I'd use like a really deep reddish brown. But if you want it to read as sand, I'd start with like a more yellowy or orangish kind of brown color, and then work up to like Ushabti bone highlights or dry brush. So moving forward, I'm going to be base coating with Scrag Brown, and then overbrushing with Zandri Dust, and then dry brushing Ushabti Bone over it. I think this kind of reads as sand, or like as a desert, and I'm quite happy with it. And I think it really looks good if you put a little bit of a red glaze over the lips and any like scars. It just really adds a nice pop and a little bit of contrast, and it really makes it look nice. I didn't paint the eyes red just because their eyes are so tiny that you can barely see them. And I don't even, just for something that small, I find it doesn't really, it's not worth it for me on the, just like a really basic troop choice. And for this guy, so I bought some used High Elves off eBay that were unpainted, so I'm experimenting. This is a test model to see how I'm going to paint the rest of the army. So I'm experimenting with whites and blues and stuff like that. So I'm not used to painting like a model with like that's predominantly white, so I am totally experimenting. I started with Gray Sear, a Gray Sear spray. I chose that over Corax White because I think Gray Sear would be smoother. I hear Corax White kind of gives a chalky, kind of grainy finish because white has kind of thicker pigments. And I'm quite happy with how this is turning out so far. I experimented with for the white, I used kind of this golden acrylics titanium white that I had on hand. And I think in the future I'm going to paint it more of an off-white. I'm probably going to mix Ulthuan Gray with White Scar in like a 50-50 mix. And I really don't like mixing colors, especially not for like a base coat on something, but for this, I think it makes sense. I tried, I got a bottle of Corax White, and I thought that would be kind of like a good off-white and have good coverage, but it was just so grainy that I don't even really want to try it or experiment with it. So I really want a smooth finish. I think Ulthuan Gray is a good color, but I think it's just a little too dark for what I want. I really want a light color, but I still want it to be off-white. So I'm thinking I want to mix Ulthuan Gray and White Scar. And I really like these models, and just I'm really nostalgic for fantasy, so that's why I got this. And just these are kind of starter box set models from Island of Blood from, I think it's about a decade ago, but I think they still really look good. They have a lot of details, and I'm kind of surprised they choose this for like a starter kit, because these take a really long time to paint. Even this, and this isn't even done. It's taken me a while, and especially if you want it to be really to look clean and crisp. This is, I mean, I think this is kind of a hard model to make look good, so I'm gonna do my best with it. But I think it's looking good so far. I like the gold and the way the silver is turning out. So, oh, and also I've been building a snaz wagon. So yeah, after I finish the Boyz, I thought I'd work on this. I'm gonna paint it in some sub-assemblies, but not too many, just because it saves time. So this is a pretty fun kit to make. So this is what I've been working on. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know, and have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.